name is Prince. I'll be taking the front-end development section. All right, let me start. Sorry for the delays and everything that has happened. It was all due to technical issues. I was just trying to get the environment ready for the class. Okay, so right ahead, we start with what we're here to do today. Sorry for that. Okay, this is what we're here to do. We actually want to look into software development and how we start. And I will just start with this. What is software development as a whole? It's embodies so many aspects, and one of them, as stated here, is front-end development. We have back-end development. We have data analysis. Then we have artificial intelligence, security, architecture, testing, and etc. But what we are focusing on basically today and for this class is front-end development. And the way we want to progress in this session is we're trusting to finish front-end development, finish back-end development, and do in between. We're going to also be doing something about data analytics. Now, the knowledge of front-end development and back-end development actually makes you a full-stack developer. That's for that. I will just rush through the slide I have here, so I will go into the core learning for today. Then for front-end development, which is what we'll be doing in the next few weeks, let's say 4 weeks, trying to see how we can wrap up everything about front-end development. Sorry, not front-end development, an aspect of front-end development in the next 4 weeks. But this is how it progresses in front-end development. We have core aspects of front-end development. We have HTML, we have CSS, we have JavaScript, and we have React. HTML, as the name implies, hypertext markup language. There'll be time for questions. I know there are some questions that may be popping up now, but let me just rush through this, then I'll go back again and explain them in details. Hypertext markup language. Then we have the CSS, cascaded style sheet. This guy here, this HTML, is basically like it's used in writing text, basically for texting, for wordings of web pages. I know most of us have seen websites and how they are being built. Every website consists of lettering of words that are written, either headings or paragraphs describing what headings describing what the paragraphs do, and the paragraphs also summarizing what the website is all about. So those texts you see written on those websites are actually written with the help of HTML. It's called a hypertext markup language. Why the CSS? CSS, I call CSS like for ladies who do makeup. It's like the makeup of websites. It gives beauty, color, and flair to website. Then you come to this guy called JavaScript. JavaScript adds interactivity to website. Let me explain what I mean by interactivity. You know, when you want to log into your Gmail, how you enter your name and password, and immediately when you click login, it brings up your name. Let's say your name, you registered in Gmail as Susan or something. When you log in, it pops up after you put in the correct username and your password. The screen changes immediately, and something else pops up on your screen saying either welcome Susan or something. So that is the function of this guy called JavaScript. It gives that interactive nature. It makes a web app or a website behave like a human being, where you can interact with it, ask questions, and get back answers from the web page. That is the work of JavaScript. Then the last but not the least that we are going to be dealing with under front-end development is called JavaScript frameworks. There are several kinds of JavaScript frameworks. When I mean frameworks, I'll just go through this briefly, then we'll go through them in details. What I mean frameworks is something like, let me use the simplest of examples. Is there anybody in the house? Okay, have you seen a building when a building being built? Like when they are building a building, please, who can tell me what's the first thing you do while building after you dig foundation? Let's say you're building a story building. There are some things you do. You put rods, ions and stuff, and you do some casting. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Now we can call the structural part of a building the framework of the building. Now, if I'm building a one bedroom duplex, meaning a story building, the same, it will have pillars, it will have columns, it will be decked. Even if I'm building the same building in Lagos, I'm building in Abuja, I'm building in Port Harcourt, they will have the same frameworks. Now, the internal partitionings might be different, but they will all have the same framework. They will all have the same structure. There'll be pillars, there'll be decks. So that is what a framework is. So there are frameworks where JavaScript have frameworks that can enable you reproduce the same results in different aspects. If you don't understand it now, just pause. We'll get it as we progress. I can assure you. I just wanted to give us a rundown of what these things means. But for today's class, we'll be diving into HTML, which is this guy here. And that'll be HTML, which is this guy here. Now, what is HTML? This class is more of talking and asking questions and writing, no presentation, by the way. I just did this to give us a pictorial idea of what we're doing. What is HTML? The full meaning of HTML is hypertext markup language. I wouldn't want to go into the history and start telling you the history of HTML, who invented it. I think that one you can make research on that and get those names. But HTML markup language. Imagine your normal Microsoft Word package. Microsoft package, sorry. It has Microsoft Word, it has Excel, it has PowerPoint. Now, if you want to write a letter, what comes to your mind first? I'm sure you don't go and open Excel to try to construct a letter. The first place you go is your Microsoft Word. That shows that the basic functionality of the Microsoft Word is for lettering, for text. That is what HTML does in web pages. I call HTML the Word document of the web. The Word document of the web. It is used for lettering. It is used for writing text. That is what it does. Yes, because of evolution, HTML can manipulate itself to give results that looks as if they want to that makes it look as if you can actually style or give beauty to text. But the core function of HTML, the hypertext markup language, is basically for lettering and for text in web applications or web pages. That is the core function. Having said that, I want us to examine the structure of the HTML. What does it comprise of? And for that, I would like to open up a document, the structure of the HTML. It's just a picture that I want us to flow with. The HTML is made up of two major parts. Sorry for that. The HTML is made up of two major parts, the body and the title. Hope you can all see my code editor.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
Let me open up the HTML documents. Okay. Let's create a new folder. Let me call it class1. Sorry, let me open the class1. I'm sorry, by the way, if in case this session ends, you can join back with this link. That was actually one of the things we're trying to fix with Zoom. That was what delayed us, but we'll get it sorted out as we progress.
Pardon?
I say, in case this session ends, you can join back with the same link, please.
Oh.
Okay. So this is a typical HTML document. Index.html. This is a typical HTML document. I just created one HTML document. Okay. Now, this is the structure of HTML documents. This is the head section. If you see, there's a big guy here called HTML. This guy, don't worry, I will explain what this tags mean. Don't bother about what they mean. I just want to give you a basic structure. See this one, line 2 and line 11, they all comprise of the whole HTML document. This is the HTML. Then inside of HTML, we now have two major sections. If I remove all these things written here, HTML now has two major sections, which is the head and the body. Can we see my screen? So HTML has two major sections, the head and the body. Now let me go back to this, my picture, the head and the body. Now, sorry, the head wasn't included here. We just started from the body from this picture. Sorry for that. So HTML has two major sections. Please note it, the head and the body. Okay, the meeting will end in 10 minutes. At the end, please, you can join back with the link. So the head and the body. Now, anything you want to be displayed on a web page, please note, anything you want to be displayed on your web page must be written inside this body. Let's say I want to write about my journey or anything. Anything it needs to be displayed on a web page. What you want to be seen on a web page. This is a typical web page. This my screen is a typical web page. This is a typical web page. A typical web page. Anything you want to be displayed on a web page is from between here, all here. Just follow me. Between here, see where my arrow is going. Everything around here, everything here. Anything you want to be displayed here must be written inside. Must be written inside that body tag. Anything you want to be displayed there must be written inside a body tag. So which means that anything not written inside that body tag will not be recognized as a valid as a valid HTML, as a valid HTML file for the web. Now, sometimes you might write outside this body tag, it will be displayed on a web page. And some persons might say, but we thought it's not supposed to be displayed. Yes, it will be displayed. Every day as we wake up, there are evolutions when it comes to browser and how they work. Now, there are some browsers that we flag it as an error if you write anything outside this body tag. Let me say you write it here. Some browsers will flag it as an error, while some will display it. But conventionally, all the browsers, we have so many browsers. We have Safari, we have Google Chrome, we have Mozilla, we have this, we have that. Now, so that you don't write the code and at the end of the day, it doesn't get displayed by a particular browser. The browser you might be using to test your code might not be the same browser I might be using to open this, to open the web app. So in order to avoid this confusion, we decided they decided to come up with a convention saying that, okay, everything that you want to be displayed on your web page must be inside your body, inside that body. And anything you want to be seen must be inside that body. Then what do we have in the head tag? Somebody might be asking that question. Let me open my browser again and show you something. You know, when you open if I have so many tabs open on my browser, by the way. Now watch my mouse. If my mouse goes to this part, you see something comes up here. If you can read it very well, it says testing DOM mutations with jest. If I go to the next one and click on it, this one has another thing, another name. So if I go close, you see solved. Mocking documentation, jQuery selector in jest. Now, if I go to another one, this one has a name, curriculum React Redux. This one has another name, Priors. This one has another name. Now, these names you're seeing that are displayed here are like the title of your applications. And these titles are normally embedded inside this body tag. So that tells you that anything you
The
write in the
body
body
part
tag,
or the head.
sorry, inside your head tag. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Inside your head tag. That tells you that anything you put inside your head tag will not be displayed on the web page, can only be seen in the title of the web page. So if you want anything to be displayed, you better put it inside the body tag. That is how it will be displayed. Now let's now go deep and study this head tag. One of the components of this head tag is, okay, before I do that, the whole HTML document, if you see this thing I wrote here, somebody might be wondering, what do you mean by when you say tag, what do you mean? Sorry, I didn't explain that before I started. Let me go back to one of the picture I have here. What are tags and what do they do? Now, this is a tag. A tag is just a letter that is a letter, or sometimes some of them are letters, some are words, that is enclosed in a left angled bracket and a right angled bracket.
Pardon?
A tag is a letter or a word that is enclosed in a left angled bracket or less than sign, as we call it, less than sign, and a greater than sign. This object you see here is called a tag. And HTML elements are written in tags. What are HTML elements? This whole thing you see here, you can see this thing is, the first one is less than sign. We now have a head, greater than, we have this less than, then we have this forward slash. This thing here, this here is called an element. If you notice when I open my browser, okay, let me do a live display so that we'll see something. Sorry. We started by saying that the HTML is divided into two parts, the head and the body section. And we also said that anything that you want to be displayed on the web must be embedded in the body section. Then we now moved on to say the HTML document comprises of elements, different elements. And defining an element, I am saying that an element is um, an element is a structure that houses components. Sorry, let me break it down. I'm trying to break it down so that we all understand it. This head you're seeing here, this thing is called an element. An element is made up of a tag. Two tags form one element. This is one tag. This one here. This one here is one tag. This one here is another tag. Two tags make up the element. Now, HTML letterings are always written inside elements between the opening and the closing tag. So this body here, this body you're seeing here, this body here is an element. And if you look from this our picture, this guy here, P, is a tag. Now, if I want to write an HTML document, I begin by writing an opening tag and a closing tag. Let me delete what I have here. If I want to write something in HTML, the first thing I should do, if you even see the main HTML document itself, it's also a tag. It has an opening tag and a closing tag. If you notice well, the difference between an opening tag and a closing tag is this forward slash, nothing else. This is an opening tag. This is a closing tag. The difference between the both of them is the forward slash. Then HTML letterings or text are written inside the opening and the closing tags. If you combine the opening and the closing tag, it forms an element. Hope you're following.
Don't really understand these elements of a thing.
Okay, you're lost with the elements.
Yes.
Okay. But you understood when I said HTML is comprises of the head and the body section, right?
Yes, up to
Okay.
the tag.
Okay,
I
up to the tag.
understood it.
Okay. HTML comprises of the head and the body section. We've done that. Then we'll now come down to how do we write? How do we write? Okay, sorry, let me do something. Just give me a sec. This is body. This is the body. This is the body. This is the body. Just give me a sec. Let me make this. This is body. Okay, so as I was saying before, can we all see this code I wrote here? I want us to observe something. Can we all see the code?
Yeah.
All right.
I see it.
Okay, if you notice, from what we discussed so far, I said the HTML is divided into the head section and the body section. Now I said, okay, and I said, anything you want displayed. Hello. Okay, and I said anything you want displayed on your browser, it's to be written in the body section. Now I just wrote this in, and I want you to see something. You see this? This is the body I wrote here. Now this is the outcome. As you can see, the only thing displayed is this is the body, no other thing displayed. That's to tell you that everything inside that tag isn't displayed in your browser. If you check what we just saw now, you didn't see this body, you didn't see this body, you didn't see this head, you didn't see anything here. The only thing you saw was this one in white. So these things that are not displayed on the browser are called your HTML elements. They are actually used to tell the browser what to display. The browser sees them and knows that they are not to be displayed because they are enclosed in this greater and less than sign. And they already registered in the browser as elements, so they are not to be displayed. So I wrote body here, it's displayed, but this one didn't display. So that comes to the definition of what is an element. An HTML element is a kind of a container used to write text in HTML, used to write text in the web. Is a container that is used to write text in the web. The container itself is not being displayed, but the text which it contains is rather what is being displayed in the web. I hope that definition makes sense now. So call HTML element a container that is used to hold the objects we want, or the items, or the text, or the letterings we want displayed in the World Wide Web. So this body you see here is a container. This one is a container. But I now went further and said the HTML element is now divided into two parts itself. These two parts are called tags. They are called tags. And they consist of two types, the opening and the closing tag. I showed you the opening tag. This is the opening tag, and this is the closing tag. The difference between the opening and the closing is that the closing tag has a forward slash. So anything you write between the opening and the closing tag is what is being displayed. The content in the tag itself is not being displayed. So combine opening and closing tag, you have a HTML element. The person that said, I think was it Felix that said he didn't get us the first time? Are you okay now? Hello?
I didn't get it.
Yeah, I
I'm
say
with
somebody,
you.
somebody
Since
asked a
the class,
question.
no, since the thing cut me off at the time, not to bring the class backward. Since it's being recorded, I will follow up later with the recordings. So
Okay. But do you understand the concept of tags and elements now? Because we need to get this out of the way. Okay, haven't gotten that. There are now other structures also that make up this. This body element is not the only element in the HTML document. The body element is a container. It's the big guy. It now contains other small HTML elements that we are going to be considering now. So the aim of this class is that after today, you should be able to understand how to write HTML and how to and understand the structure of HTML. So if you get that, if you understand that basic structure, I would like to display this picture. Sorry, the one I displayed before. I would now like to display this picture to you. If you watch this picture very well, at the top, we have HTML, which is the big container. The HTML is just more like writing a container inside a container, inside a container, inside a container. So now, the HTML we wrote before was this big container. Ideally, we're supposed to have another container somewhere here. Sorry, let me supposed to include that. The way that comes up. We're supposed to have another smaller container somewhere here. Another smaller container somewhere around here. Somewhere here. And that container will be the head. Am I right? And that guy will be the head, as we rightly said. This one just goes ahead to show the body without showing the head. But this is the main HTML container. This is the body container we talked about. You remember it has opening and closing tag. The HTML is a big container that has opening and closing tag. Inside the HTML, we now have two sections. We have the body and the head. Sorry, the head is not being displayed, but if the head were to be displayed here, we just have another box here, up here, of the head, and this is the body. Now, the body is this one. Inside this body, if you can see, there is this thing called H1 here. It's another container on its own. See, it starts here, it ends here. Inside the same body, there's another container called P. It starts here, it ends here. It's forward slash. There's another container here too. There's another container here, another one here, another one here. So it goes on and on and on, depending on how you want your web to be displayed. If you have a typical document, I'm sure a typical Word document that you have, you will see where you have, your, sorry, you see where you have your, if you take your typical Word document that you read every day, okay, sorry for that. Okay, so if you see your typical Word document, you know how you have your document that has different sections. You have one big header, then you have smaller headers. You have one big header, then you have a paragraph, you have a smaller header, you have another paragraph, you have a smaller header, you have another paragraph. It's the same concept with the World Wide Web. If I open it any website for you now to view, or any website for us to see, you see that we have a website, it has like this website, for instance. This one, it has this big header. It now has a smaller header. It now has a paragraph, maybe another small paragraph. another small header, another paragraph like that. It goes on and on and on and on like that. It's the same concept. Hello?
Sir, we are not seeing your screen more.
Oh, sorry. Stop sharing. Okay, this is what I was trying to describe. You see this typical document, it has one big header here. It has one big header here. It has a smaller header here. It has a paragraph, another paragraph. It's the same way. It goes on and on like that. That is how its typical HTML document is being structured. From what we've written so far, this is what we have for now. Now, there are other elements of the HTML, apart from the head and the body. I will now introduce us to one called, apart from this head and body, there is another HTML element called the heading element. The heading element. The heading element. Okay, the heading element. What does the heading element do? Just as the name implies, it just adds heading to HTML documents. It helps in structuring a document so that if you're building a website, you know which one is a heading and which one is a paragraph. Once you just indicate that is a heading, the web knows that this particular element is a heading and they know how to structure it. And how do we let the web know that this element is a heading? By using a tag called the h1 tag. There are different types of heading by using a tag called the h1 tag. Please, let's not forget that we represent elements in HTML with tags, starting and closing tags. Please, let's not forget that. Now, representing the heading element, we still have to use tags. But this time around, the name of the tag, instead of being a body, it's now h1. So once you write h1, the web knows that what you're saying is that anything inside this h1 is a heading. And what do we do to heading? Most times in our letters, headings are always very bold. Headings are always very bold. So once you write that, the web knows that, okay, this thing is supposed to be a heading. So you know that it's supposed to be a heading. Okay. So once you write this, it automatically says that this is a heading. Now we have 6 types of heading elements, depending on the heading we want to write, the kind of heading we want to write. And we'll see the way they look. Like what I just wrote here, let me display so we see. This is how that heading looks like. The heading element that we just wrote. See, I didn't do anything. I didn't write it. I didn't style it. I didn't do anything. I only wrote it down. And immediately, this browser understands that this thing is supposed to be bolded. The only reason why it understood this is because I wrote a heading. I wrote it inside a heading element. And I wrote it inside a heading element. If I remove this heading and write something else, it will not be as bold as this. Now, there are 6 types of these heading elements because all the headings you see on the typical web page don't look the same. They're not the same size. Just as we saw in that example I showed you. These guys are not the same. See, this guy is not the same size as this. Now, there are 6 types depending on the size, what size you want, and what you want to be displayed. Ranging from H1 to H6. H1 looks like this. Then let's see what H6 now looks like. H2 looks like. The next one is H2. I'll just be doing it. I'll be seeing it being displayed. I'm trying to show my browser and the Visual Studio Code simultaneously. Sorry, I think there is a just a sec. Let me see. Just give me a sec. Let me open up. I can show, so we can be seeing the results while I'm working. Just give me a sec, guys, please. I'm trying to split my screen so it's better for all of us. Okay, I think I got it now. Okay. All right, so you can now see the results here. So if you notice, once this H1 is not the same as H2. So we have 6 different heading elements. The first one was H1, the second one H2, we have H3, we have H4, H5, and H6. Now this is H3. You notice it's smaller. Let's move on to H4. H4. H4 is smaller than H3, H5. Then the last one is H6. Depending on how you want the size of your header to be, you can use any of these HTML elements.
I have a question/suggestion.
Okay.
Or is it not time for questions so that I can jot note my questions?
You can ask the question before we go too far.
Okay. The question is, how are you able to transform what you're doing presently to a web page? That's one.
Okay. And the second one?
The second one, I think we would have downloaded all this software so that we'll be following the class as we're doing it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
want to be very
Yeah.
interactive.
Okay. We'll do that now. It's just that I would have loved us to listen, take notes, then maybe at our own time we practice these things. As we practice, if there's any question in our next class, we can always ask. Because if you want to do while I'm working, we might not catch up. That's just the truth. But at the end of the class, what we'll do is I'll tell you what to download on how to configure them so that on your own you practice these things. When you've practiced them, when we're having our next class, if there's any challenge, we can solve it together. Okay.
Very helpful.
All right. Now, before I go too far, I think you asked an important question that I would like to answer before I go too far. We've talked about HTML elements, the structure, how they look like, but we need to ask ourselves one question. Is it everywhere you write the code and it's displayed on the web? The answer is no. That is why we have something called code editors. They are called code editors. What they do is they are built and integrated with functionalities that enables that communicates with web pages. An example of a code editor. I know most of us remember the notepad we used to have, right? The notepad on our system. Notepad is a code editor. It can be used to write codes. The only difference is if you want to write a HTML document, you must save it in index.html. Let me show you an example. I'll minimize my screen now and go back to beginning as if I was not using that code editor I just closed. Let's say for somebody who does not know anything about the code editor I just closed, open a typical notepad on your mind. This is a typical notepad I just opened. Right? Now, I want to write HTML with this guy. I'll start by writing. Remember, we said all your code must be enclosed inside HTML elements. Start by writing HTML. It means I need to close it because everything I need to show, if I need the web to understand that this is a HTML document, it needs to be written inside the HTML elements. Then I go to the next line. I now said the HTML is divided into the head and the body section. Okay, which means I need to write a head section. Are we following to this point? Please, if you're not following, let me know. Okay, I guess we're all following. Okay, I didn't do anything. I just opened a notepad and I'm trying to write my first HTML code, my notepad. Then I now go ahead and I write body. I close it. So I now have HTML that has two sections, my body and the head. Then inside the body, I was told that this is where anything I want to be displayed on the web should be written. And now go ahead here. And meanwhile, I just learned about the heading elements. So I said, okay, let me write one big heading. Call it H1. Close it. Remember, anything that has a closing tag must have an opening tag must have a closing tag. Then inside this heading, I said, hello world. Welcome to coding class. Welcome to coding class. Now I've written this guy here. And this is the basic structure of the HTML document. Remember the head. Okay, let me add a head to it so that something will be displayed in my browser. To do that, I'll need to add, we've not talked about this guy, but it's a title element to give a title to my page. It has an opening tag, so it must have a closing tag. Now, let me call it, give it a title, say software development. Right? So I'm done writing it. I want it to be displayed on the web. All I need to do is to go here and write and click save as. Save this guy. Then let me save it on my desktop. I want to save, if I want it to be displayed on the web, I need to save it as index. Please take note of this. Index.html. That is the convention. Just as well, if you want to save your Microsoft Word document, you save it in a .doc. Want to save your PDF document, save in .pdf. The same thing for JPEG document, for PNG documents. When you want to save documents that you need the web to understand that this is for you to use, it must be saved in index.html. So I just open your typical notepad, I wrote those codes and I'm saving it now. So I want to save it on my desktop. Click save. And it's saved on my desktop. I can close this guy. And let me go back and try to open what we just did. This is it on my desktop. Now note something. Immediately you type index, even if immediately you type .html, it assumes the form of your default browser. My default browser is Google Chrome. If I was using Opera Mini, it assumed the form of Opera Mini, the logo of Opera Mini. So that's to tell you that already the web has already recognized that this guy is HTML, it's a web document. So if I click on it now, double click on it, let's see what will be displayed. Okay, yes, open with Google Chrome. See, the code we just wrote. Hello world, welcome to coding class. And if you check here, this is our title that we just wrote, software development. Is everybody following? Please, I need you to indicate if this step was very clear.
I'm following.
So this step was very clear.
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, so you see how to write your typical HTML documents. This is all you need to do. If you want to add anything to the screen, to this place, okay, if I want to add more text, all I need to do is go back. This is my document. I open it. I said open with. I click. I open it with the same notepad. Sorry, notepad. I need to search for it. Okay. It is the guy, notepad. If I click on it, it opens it back. If I need to add more items to this guy, let me see, I need to add a paragraph. I need opening and closing tag. I need to add a paragraph. Say, okay, let me just copy one from any other place. Let me copy this paragraph here. I need to insert it here for time's sake. They just copied and pasted it there, and this is it. I go back and I say save. And see, I refresh this guy. You see, it comes up here too. So this is how web pages are being built. Now, this notepad is called a code editor. There are several types of them. There is Notepad++, there is Notepad. But the process I just went through, creating these things, has been made easy. How was it made easy? There are smarter code editors that have been invented. Now, what those code editors do, they help you structure these things, make it look nicer, and they just structure it for you. And you don't need to finish, save as index.html and go back. So what I just did here is the same thing I was doing with this guy. Now, this guy is a code editor, but it's called a Visual Studio Code, VSC. Please note it down. It's part of what you'll be downloading. Visual Studio Code. And write the name here so that we all see it. Write it bold. Let me write it. It's called a Visual Studio Code. Let me write it with H2. A Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code. In brackets, I put VSC. I save, refresh my page, and it comes up here. So this guy is also a code editor. Now, why this one is a code editor? This one is better because it was built specially for this purpose. While using this code editor, I didn't have to save and go back and refresh and to let my changes reflect. Once I just type, it comes with inbuilt functionalities. If you check down here, if I click on go live, it shows me what I have done. I didn't need to save it, go back, click it and open. So that's just the difference between them. No, in this other one, I created index, like here, if I want to create index.html file, I'll just click here. This is my folder. I open the folder. And here I can just click new file. Once I click on new file, I can type index.html, it's already written there. And I begin to create in this new file. While I was using this guy, the same process, if I go here, click on new, a new file will be opened. I can now go ahead and start writing these things again. So this is a code, Notepad is a code editor. We have other smarter code editors. VS Code, Visual Studio Code is one of them. We have others. There's another one called Atom. There's another one called Sublime. There are so many of them. Let me try and see if I can. It's called Atom, called Sublime. But popularly, the one that's being used by most persons in this industry is this Visual Studio Code because it's easier to use, it's well integrated, and they keep having good updates almost every week, or they frequently update the code editor, so it's easier for programmers to use. Most software programmers, this is what they use in building those great softwares you see. So I've mentioned Visual Studio Code, I mentioned Atom, I mentioned Sublime. So these are 3 code editors that you can use to do what we just did with Notepad. Are we following, please? Is that understood?
We are with you, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So can you permit me to continue with Visual Studio Code? Can I do that?
You are free, sir.
Yeah, because it makes my life easier. All right, so the last thing we talked about was the heading elements. And as the name implies, it's used to create headers. As you can see, I have 6 headers here, and they're all displayed in different sizes. Now, the next one I would like us to look into is what we use in creating paragraphs. We've seen it before, but I'll just go back to it again. It's called the P elements. It was actually what I used as an example here. The P elements used in creating paragraphs. So if you have lines that are more than one, or a bulk of paragraph, I believe we all know what paragraphs means. Lines of text sentences that sometimes can cover 3 to 4 lines in your Word or in your documentation. So those ones are written with the aid of P elements. And this is the same way you write it. Writing HTML elements is the same format. The only thing that changes is the name of the element. In the case of the heading element, we're using H1 or H6 depending on what the size of the heading you want. But in the case of the paragraph, we are using the P elements, but they are all written in the same format, opening and closing tag. So if I want a paragraph to be displayed, I'll use the P elements. So once I put it here, it will display paragraphs for me. Now somebody might be asking, okay, what if instead of using P, I use H2? It will still be displayed on the web, but let me show you what it will look like. Let me look for one long paragraph. This one doesn't look very long. So one long paragraph. What is long? Let me see. Okay, so let me use this and let's see what happens here. So let me paste this here. So you see what just happened? I just pasted this thing, immediately displayed there. Did you notice it? But if I was using Notepad, I had to save it, refresh. Although you have to install some plugins here for this to work too, which is part of their package. So this is how you display paragraphs on your web. Now, somebody might decide to say, instead of using P, I'll just go ahead and use H1. After all, it will still display. You know, one thing with this these things is anything you do will work, but there are some browsers that will cut it off and will flag it off. And it's like a convention that the software developers came together and said, okay, this is how we want the web to be structured. Now, if you want to do something that is outside that, which means you have to manufacture your own browser and make your browser universal. So some browsers will flag this as an error. See, it's displaying, but it's displaying in bold letters. You might say, okay, instead of using H1, let me use H6. It will still show, but so see, it will be bolded, and it's not a good structure. It flags your website as not being structured. It's not professional. So for writing paragraphs, it is strictly recommended that we use the P elements. Even the browser, once it sees P, it's expecting a paragraph. And it will be styled. It will give you the look of a paragraph. So now, having done that, there are several kinds of HTML elements now we'll be looking into. We've done the heading elements, we've done the P elements. I also want us to look into another one called another one called the list element. So once I say element, somebody should already know how an element is being represented. The symbol of the list element is U. So please, in the comment section, can you write a U element for me, how it should look like. The symbol is U, letter U. So if I want to write it, how will I write it? Going by what I said, that the elements have the same structure. The only thing that changes is the letter. Please, somebody should drop it on the comment section. How should we write it? I'm waiting. I will know we're following.
Let me just say it.
Okay, you can say it.
You can say lesser than.
Okay, I'm writing.
Lesser than the letter U.
Okay.
That you want to. Then greater than.
Okay.
Lesser than again, slash
Yes.
forward slash U. Then lesser and greater than.
All right.
No. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's correct. So once anybody tells you, write an HTML element, and you have an idea of the particular letter used to symbolize that HTML element, that tells you that, okay, this is what the person wants to write. Now, the U,
sorry. Okay, what's the U used for?
Okay, that's what I want to explain. We have the list element. It's called we have list elements. We've looked at other forms, other elements. Now I want to look into the list elements. List elements. Now, as the name implies, the list element is used in writing lists. You might say, okay, why is it that they created a special element to write lists? Don't worry, as we proceed with the class, you understand the importance of lists in web applications. The list element is basically used to write lists. Let's say you have a card where you want to write a shopping list of items or that you want to buy or something. You know how you write it on your document, you write, okay, number 1, I want to buy apple, number 2, pineapple, number 3, mango, number 3, this. The same way, the web has a format to enable you write that, do those numberings and write those things. So the list element actually plays that role. And to write a list element is written with we have 2 types of list elements. This list element you're seeing has 2 types. 2 types of lists. We have a list called ordered list and unordered list. Now, when you write a list that has letter 1, 2, 3, yeah, so we have 2 types. I'll just be writing these things here so that they will stick. We have ordered lists, and we have unordered lists. And we have unordered lists. Unordered lists. Okay. Just as the name implies, the ordered list is ordered, meaning that the ordered list is written in a way that shows an order, that this one comes first, this comes second, this comes third. And how do you write an order? You write an order using numbers. So you can say that the ordered list is a list that is written in a hierarchy, that you know the first item, the second item, the third item, the fourth item. Don't worry, you understand it. I'm just trying to explain it. While on ordered list is written in such a way that there are no hierarchy. For example, if you write a list and you write them in asterisks, so you write asterisk mango, asterisk pineapple, asterisk apple, they are not ordered. They are just written, they are not ordered in any way. So I write asterisk. I write orange, for instance, asterisk something. I say they are not ordered. But if I write 1 orange, 2 pineapple, they are ordered. So how do you write this ordered and unordered list? How do you write this ordered and unordered list? Generally, to write an unordered list, you use the element UL. You use the letter UL. Now, use the letter UL just like this, meaning unordered, U for unordered, list, U for unordered, L for list. So once the browser sees UL, the browser already knows that it's expecting a list. And what kind of list? It's expecting a list that does not have hierarchy. So when you write this now, in each of All right, so let me continue from where I stopped. So I was saying that I said we use lists a lot in web development. As time goes on, you understand the importance of this list and what they do. But for now, what you should know is that there are two types of lists. We have the ordered list and the unordered list. Now, for the ordered list is written with the UL tag. It's written with the UL element, sorry. The same thing. When I mean element means the opening and the closing tag forms an element. So the ordered list is written with the UL element, just as the name implies. The unordered list, unordered UL, the first letter U and L is written with the. And now, once you write UL, your browser already awaits a list that is ordered. All you need to do is to start writing the items you want to be ordered. And how do you write it? Just use LI, which is the list. So for each of the item you want to be shown on this list, okay, as you can see I hope you can see my display screen. Let me see what happened. Immediately I just wrote, okay, let me remove this. Talk about this. Talk about unordered. Okay. So if you notice very well, I've not written anything. I just wrote UL and I wrote my first list. Now the list, the individual items that you want to be shown on this unordered list are written with the LI elements. So you have a big UL element. That UL element is telling the browser that what you are expecting is a list that is not ordered. Then the LI element is now used to write the items that you want to be on that list. So as you can see, I've not written anything on that list, but immediately I just attempted to write the first list. My browser changed to a dot, saying that this is an unordered list. So let me write something. Let me write orange. The next one, I'll write apple. The next one, mango, and so on and so forth. So it keeps increasing the number of items in the list. Are we together on this? Please, I need your response.
Yes, we are together.
Okay. Now the next one we need to move to is the ordered list. Please, how do I write the ordered list following what we've discussed so far? Somebody should give me.
Before you go further.
Okay.
When you wrote the open UL, that's the unordered list.
Okay.
I just observed that the next line, which is line 31.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know, was it tab you use in shifting the cursor to that point? It is that is not directly under you.
Okay. This was actually done by this Visual Studio Code. It just shifts it for you. It tells you that this LI are all children of this UL. That UL is their parent.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you see it's even shifted it more. So you see this line here, it's showing that this LI are all children of this UL. So UL is their father.
Okay, can you delete this? Okay, no problem.
Is that clear? All right. So I now want to write an ordered list. You know, I said an unordered list is written with U and L. So what about ordered lists?
OL.
Sorry?
OL.
OL, exactly. Just as the name implies, ordered lists. The only difference is ordered lists. The other syntax are the same thing. So once you just put LI is used to state the individual items. Once I put LI, if you check my browser, once I put my first LI, it numbers it already for me. Say 1, even without writing anything. So once I write orange, it reflects there as orange. If I go to the next one, I write apple, Same results. Mango. Same results. All right. Now, somebody might be asking, I told you initially that you might be wondering why we need this list. Why do they create special attention to lists? One of the places we use this list is in showing navigations for pages. Let me give you a typical example. Let me open a page for you that has navigation. Okay, like this page. These are the navigations. Now, they actually use stylings to keep them straight like this. But they are actually, most times these things are created with lists. You see, this tutorial will be here, reference will be under, exercise will be under this one will be under. But as we proceed, you see how you can also use styling, because by default, the list items appear one on top of each other. So if I want to create navigation for this my page, this guy can be, instead of writing this orange and apple we wrote here, let me get my studio code. I can write here, I can say this first guy is my home page. I write home. And this guy is my about page. I write about. And this one is my contact us page. I say contact us. Contact us. Let's say this is a typical website that I was trying to design. Let me remove it from here then and put it up here before anything, because as we know, the navigation comes before any other thing. Is it making sense now? So as you can see, I have my home, my about, and my contact us. My contact us. So this is one of the use of the UI elements. Of course, I know you've seen some pages that are arranged like these, are not straight. So this is one of the uses of them. As time goes on, we'll look at how we can remove these dots. Those ones are things we'll also look into, how we remove those dots. But this is one of the examples, this is one of the use cases of the UL elements. Now, the OL element, which is the ordered list, basically is always found inside a web page, used to itemize items, as the name implies. Used to itemize items. So having done that, so far we've considered 3 HTML elements. We've done the H element, which has 6 types, H1 to H6. We've done the P elements, and now we've done the ordered and unordered lists, the UL and the OL elements. Please, do we have any question about these ones? If there's any question, let's answer them before we move on. If there's any question, please, I would like to take questions so that we don't get...
Really a question. I just wanted to be sure. Is it compulsory to use small letters? Like, is there any rule as to the alphabet? Like, does it have to be small letter, or you could use any letters at all?
Sorry, can you all see my screen?
Yes,
Oh, okay. Yeah, by convention, it's mandatory to use small letters. You know, I will stress this again. I know I said it before. One of the reasons why we abide to this convention is because it's more like a general rule that everybody agrees to. Now, if I change, sorry, stop sharing. If I change this to capital letter, it will still display. But as I told you, if you're going for an interview and they ask you to write the H1 element and you write it this way, straight away, you will fail the interview, because the process also matters, not the results. That is number one. And why we fail is because we know that if I'm like, we have different types of browsers. We have Mozilla, we have Opera, we have Brave, we have Firefox, we have Safari, and more are still coming up every day. We have Edge. Now, if I'm making a browser today, I'm not going to make a browser that will accommodate what is not the accepted norm or convention. If I'm trying to build my own browser today, I'll build a browser that will say, maybe the code in my browser will say, please accept only small letters as H1 elements. Now, if my browser, please accept only small letters. If my browser encounters this code with this H2 element, it will not display it because it's already like an error. It's a bug. We call it a bug, an error in my code. So conventionally, it is accepted that elements should be written in small letters. Even if there are no, even if they like, especially Google Chrome is one of the flexible browsers around these days. But I know Safari and iOS, they have these strict rules around their browsers most times. So that is why it is advised to always make sure what you've written is in small letters and not capital letters. For browser compatibility, mostly, that's just the idea. Please, any other question? I'd love to take questions now. Please, did you understand my explanation, Rejoice?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question?
As regards what you just explained,
Okay.
the items you listed, like apple, orange, and mango,
Okay.
they started with capital letters, so that
Yes.
does not imply to.
Oh, when I mean letters, I was talking of the element itself. You know, you remember we said something that the only thing that the browser displays is this guy. The browser does not display this guy. This L, this guy is an element. So this element should not be written in this format. It should be in small letter. That is what we're trying to say. The other letters, the other things on the website can be small letter, capital, small letter, it doesn't matter. Like if you see this, my heading, this one is in capital letter and it's fine. But the tag where this heading is written should be in small letter. Like here, this heading element is this guy here. This H1, H must be in small letter. That is what I was trying to explain. Is it understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So any other questions, please? Love to take questions now so that okay. I'm guessing we understood everything. Okay, so there are so many HTML elements, and we might not look into all of them. What we're just going to do is we're going to be selecting the basic ones, the common ones, the ones that are used every day. Then as we proceed in this journey, others will come up and you also see them and see their use cases and how they are being used. So I want to treat another one. It's just that I'm looking at the time, or because that one is quite bulky. Or okay, let's do something about a nested list. You know, this list item we just talked about can also be nested. Nested is in the sense that, let's say I'm trying to, okay, I use this part as a heading. Let's say it's not a heading here, and I'm trying to list something. I come here, I say list of, I have different lists, okay. Let's say here, I say, which is this one here, I say furniture lists. Furniture list. So let me copy this furniture, this thing from yeah. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, I, write here, I say furniture list. Then inside this furniture list, inside this furniture list, I want to display another list inside of this list. Now this is a furniture list. Then inside this guy, okay, how do I explain this now? Okay, let me go like this. Now this is an unordered list inside another unordered list. So I say share. Hope we're seeing the results. Share. And here I say desk. So you can see you can have a list inside a list. You can have a list. All you need to do once you want to write a list, especially if it's once you want to write a list, depending on whether ordered or unordered, you just have to invite this guy UL. Once you invite UL, then list the items you want listed inside of that list. Like what we did here. We have a furniture list. Inside furniture list, we still had another other list. And once you're out of once you're out of this, you continue your list. I hope that is clear.
Yes, it's clear, but I have a question, sir.
All right.
Is it possible to have an ordered list? Like have an unordered list inside an ordered list?
Okay, let's try it. Like let's have fruits here. Let's have fruits here. Okay. You know, one thing I like about this thing, as we do, we're seeing our results. Let's have fruits here. And inside these fruits, say, okay, let me have an unordered list of the kind of fruits I want. Call this guy LI. You can see it's possible already. Hope you can see it's possible. Then here I have banana. Then I have a pear. So you can see it's possible, right?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
All right. So before we go, I want us to stop here today so you go back and look over these things again. Because when we come next week, sorry, the next time we meet, we'll we'll go into input and try and see how we can get as much as we can. But before you go, guys, I want to take note of something. This code I'm using is called Visual Studio Code. And why we employ you to use this, you know, the first pattern I did, everything I did, I can still do with this guy. But as you can tell, whenever I type with this guy, okay, you can say it's not arranged, it's not formatted, because it was not built to format it. You just write your code and it displays. But this guy, this one is a special like code editor built. It knows what is a tag. In fact, if you check what I was doing while I was typing, it was helping me auto-complete it. If I want to type a tag, let's say a P tag, once I enter P, I close it. It completes it for me. So this is a code editor, but a more functional code editor built with functionalities to make you code faster, so that you don't worry about certain things. All you need to do is to write your code and your code. And it's an integrated system. See, when I clicked on that go live, if I click on go live, what it does is that, you know how you click on Google and your website is being displayed. So what it does is that it builds a local version of what I'm doing and places it on the web. But this URL, this link is only subject to my system here. You cannot use it. If I give it, it doesn't show anything. So it creates an IP address /index.html and it displays your work. You understand? So that is what this code editor does. And if you check very well, I'm displaying this work on port 5500. That's why I'm showing port 5500. If I want to stop it from displaying, I click here to click to close. See here, it says click to close server. I can click it and the server will close. So how do you, okay?
How do you open it on the server on the web page?
How do you host?
Please,
You're trying to ask, how do you host this thing we're doing here?
yes, no, when you're working on the Visual Studio Code,
Okay.
how do you post it on the web page?
Okay, let me close it and open it again. Let me close this guy. Close it. Open my Visual. So I just opened my Visual Studio Code and this is it. I'm working. It's not displaying. If I want to display, I'll just come here and click go live.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. But this go live is a plugin, it's an extension that you have to install. So that's I want to walk us through how to work with Visual Studio Code. That's what I want to do now. So the first thing you do, you go and download, go to their website. Just you can go to Google or anywhere, just type VS Code or Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code. And it takes it's a free app. You don't have to pay for it. See, download for Windows. Click on this downloads. Give you an option. Oh, it's already downloading. I already have it, so there was no point in downloading it. Let me stop. So if you click, it's download. You can see it was downloading. So once it's finished downloading, you install it. Just double click on it, it installs. Once it has installed, you might not have most of these things you've seen here. Then once you've installed it, please take note of this. If you have a pen, you can write it down. If you check these spaces, this place says Explorer, this one says Search, Source Control. This one, just come to this last one, says Extensions. Please, let's note this down. I hope you're writing extensions. Once you click on these extensions, it opens up this place for you. Then you have to download, you have to add a few of the extensions to give you the perfect functionality. One of the extensions I would like to add is the extension that makes it possible for me to click on this go live. Because after downloading your own, you will not see this go live here. But the extension that makes it possible for me to click on is this extension. It's called Live Server. Please write it down. Yes, the name of the extension is Live Server. Live Server. See, they say Live Server. You can take a snapshot so that you know because there are several types of Live Server. There are several, you know, this thing, if tomorrow you can finish learning this thing and you build your own. There are several types. So this one by this Ritwig Day, it's already installed on my, and that's why it's showing either I disable or I uninstall. So once you click on it, it comes up. You see different lives. There are different types created by different persons. But I think this one is, I like this one. See, this one says live server something. This one, you just see the name of this. I think it's most times it's even the first one. With day, you see it here. Once it's here, just click on install. It's already installed on my system. That's why it's showing uninstall. Once you click on install, it installs. And once it installs, that's just it. If you install it properly, you see here, this go live will come here. You see it here. So that once you start working, as you click go live, you see what you're doing live and it will be updating as you work. Are we clear?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I hope being able to pass on some information. Okay, and another one I will also, I think you also like is a guy called, let me just give you these two, Prettier. 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 Spelling. Prettier. Okay, Prettier. You know, when you ask me a question, say, okay, why did this thing shift? Why did this shift? You see the way it's formatted. You have OL here. You have OL lining up with this, which is partner, with his closing tag here. You see, you have this UL lining up with this guy here. Is the work of this Prettier extension. If you just do the same thing, click on Prettier. I already have it installed. You'll see install. Just mix. You can read the document. This is called documentation, how it works. You can read it here, what it does. It makes your code fine. It structures your code very well. In fact, this is why nobody uses Notepad again, because Notepad doesn't have these things. Notepad doesn't have them, but this ones come with this inbuilt functionality to make your code look pretty, look presentable, and to also make the editing, give you that live preview that we just saw. So these are the two apps I want you to download and install on your system. Then as the week before our next class, I will drop an assignment to be dropped just to practice what we've done so far. Nothing big. So you can now download your Visual Studio Code and practice some of these things and see them displayed. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
All right. So I be ending the class now, but if you have a question, please kindly ask your question. At least today we've been able to, let's just have a recap of what we covered today. We covered the HTML document, what it's all about. Said the HTML is the big container that contains everything.
When are we going to meet again?
Sorry?
When are we going to meet again?
Okay, because of people who are working, we structure the class for Saturdays and Mondays. Saturdays because most persons are free on Saturdays and Mondays for now. So we are meeting again on
Monday
Saturday.
by what time, please?
Mondays by 6 p.m.
Hi.
Mondays by
Oh,
6 p.m. Because of the people who go to work, they have to come back from work.
Some of us that stay in Lagos by 6 p.m. we are still in traffic.
Yeah.
So it's quite bad, but we will try and make up time for it. Maybe one other thing that you use in helping us will be sending the videos so that in case we could not follow up, maybe we'll follow up through our phones. Then when we get home, we cannot decide to follow up. By the time the video comes out, we cannot follow up the class with the video.
Yeah, we'll make the videos available for sure. We'll make them available.
That will be very helpful. Appreciate it, sir.
No problem.
Sir, please, is it the same 6 o'clock on Saturday?
No, Saturday is earlier. Saturday is quite earlier. Saturday is by 3. Well, I don't know. I think some persons still work on Saturdays. On Saturdays by 3. Saturdays by 3 p.m. while Mondays by 6 p.m. But we are trying to also come up with a modality where between these two, between Monday and Saturday, we'll still have something going on. But we are working on that. When we finalize that, we get back to us because I'm not the only one taking this. I'm just here for this. Our class will be ending in 10 minutes. Okay, let me round up in 10 minutes. I'm just here for this section, this first part of the section. There are other persons that will be coming in, and these persons are also working. So they also have things they do. They also work. So most times when they finish from work, that's when they can join. As you can see, I'm still in the office, and sorry for the darkness. I actually had to move to a separate place. I never knew there was no lighting, but going forward, I'll fix the lighting system and it will be right. So that is it for this class. If you have another question, please. And as we go on communicate, we'll send you a link to a channel. You see, there's an app called Slack. We communicate better on that app because it's what developers actually use to communicate. So it's better we start learning how things work in the real world because that's what we're doing. We're not doing this for fun. We're doing this because at the end of the day, we want to be able to apply for jobs. And seriously speaking, I don't want anybody to be discouraged. This is how I started. If I open my tab, you see so many things that I'm doing. You see, all these things are part of my learning every day and part of some of the work we do and submit and stuff. But this is how I also began this journey. This is how I started. I never knew anything about this. But the idea is that we want to bring it to a level where you could, at least if they say there is an opening for a front-end developer or a software developer, you're not a novice. You can shoot your shots. You know what to do. That is the idea. So thank you very much. And others didn't join us today, hopefully because of the impromptu message. But our next class, I believe they'll be
Yeah,
joining us.
Yeah, the last time Mr. Agu took the class, the last class we had, I requested if someone can also join the class, and he said the person can, and I forwarded the email to the mail that was actually sent to me earlier, but person didn't get
Okay,
the.
even for today's class, the person didn't get anything.
Pardon?
The person didn't get the email today.
No, the person did not.
Okay, can you drop the email here for me?
Well, should I drop it with you?
Yeah, you can drop it here in the chat. You can chat me. You know how to chat, send me maybe to one person directly, right?
Yes, I'm trying to pick you up now, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
send
You
it.
can just send it. I will update.
I think I can't chat you up. It's only pin I can pin you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Have you dropped it?
Yeah, I'm dropping it. I'm dropping it. Let me just copy the mail from my mail.
All right. All right, guys. While he's doing that, if there is nothing more, I think the class has ended. Thank you very much for joining. And
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the class. I really appreciate it.
no worries. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir, for the class. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
All right.
I want to ask, the recording for today, are we going to get it?
Yes, yes, we'll make it available.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Sorry, one last thing.
All right.
The assignment you talked about, I'm not sure I followed up on that. Was anyone given?
No, I said we'll drop an assignment. What we will,
Okay.
yeah, we'll send you an invite to a Slack channel. You see SASLAKC. You can download it on your phone, Slack.
Okay.
Or let me call Slack channel.
I have sent you the mail.
Okay, I just got the email now. I'll work on that. Okay. So it's called Slack channel. It's called Slack. You can download the app and just that when we send a message, just integrate.
On our phone.
Yes, on your phone. It's like WhatsApp, but WhatsApp for developers.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I sent it to one person. Sorry, Slack. Right, that's it, Slack. That's the name.
Okay.
All right, so thank you very much for the session. And
Thank you so much.
all right, see you soon. See you again.
Yes, sir.
Bye.